Howdy dowdy. Can anyone confirm that you can see me? That'd be nice. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, hi everyone. I announced that there will be a Ask Me Anything for the 100K, and why is there a blank green screen? Sorry. What do you want me to do? Yeah, I thought this would be a neat thing to do, and sorry it's a bit spontaneous, but I had time and I realized I wouldn't have time so many more times. Yeah, thanks everyone for subscribing. Thanks everyone for being here. And there's not really a plan for now. So we'll just see. Maybe this is over after 5 minutes or so. But in general, it's ask me anything. It is not I'll answer anything, but it's don't, it's not topical. So I'm trying to catch up. Will there be more live coding sessions in the future? I hope so. I'm not really sure. I get less competent as I age with respect to coding. So, but yeah, I don't know if live coding, for some things it's good if you know what you're doing and if the experiments don't need a lot of time. But inherently in machine learning, at some point you do train and then you wait, and then what do you do with the live stream? So I don't know if someone has neat ideas of how to bridge the time there. Yeah, maybe projects where you can do first a chunk and then let it train and then the next day come back or something like this. I don't know. Dimitros asks, do we need a PhD in AI to get into industry? No, certainly not. It might be a little bit more difficult to get into a research position, given that many people are doing AI PhDs now, but also companies are looking for them. But what's also always an option is that you start as a software engineer in a company, and then just you essentially make friends with the research team, and you just show them that you're quite competent at research. However you get competent. Once they know you are competent, they'll probably want you on their team. So if there is headcount, that's another way to get into the research in industry. Did you know Arsenal scored 3 with the... no. Sorry. Why is there no Minecraft background? I'll try to get one going. Your PhD thesis, where are you working or planning to work? My PhD thesis is done. I do officially have my title. I'm working in Zurich. I have a startup in NLP. So, yay. Most problems in deep learning boil down to cross entropy loss and gradient descent. This realization is very demotivating due to the lack of intellectual stimulus, insights. Well, yeah, I mean, most problems in networking boil down to sending things over cables. Yeah, it's true that at least the current paradigm is deep learning, which means it's gradient descent in large models, but there is still enormous creative freedom on how you design the models, how exactly you use them, or even to just sort of research what happens when you do these very simple principles, right? It's astounding. Very simple principles, very simple training methods paired with what is essentially quite simple blocks of computation give this incredible result, and I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool in itself. Yeah, so I think it's even an improvement over, let's say you're in the SVM area of machine learning. All you can do is SVM, right? There's not a lot of freedom, but now you can design models and frameworks and systems and objectives. Yeah. So I think it's, rather than it being lack of intellectual stimulus, it actually frees you up to do a lot more stuff. Why sunglasses? It's so you ask this question, of course. What are the things to be followed to become a researcher in the AI field? Whatever. Look, I can't predict what's gonna happen. This field changes so fast. Nobody knows what's gonna happen. So it's probably best you just follow whatever interests you most. And if it's a genuinely interesting thing and you like to do it, then there will be a place for you to do research on it. You know, whether it becomes the exact hype of the next years, you know, that's just chance. Cats or dogs? Cats, probably. How long have you been studying AI? I don't know, well, 5 years or so. I really didn't know it existed when I started bachelor's, and then I sort of knew it existed when I started master's. Then I learned it during master's, and then yeah, I applied for a PhD. At that point, I still really didn't know what was going on, and only after maybe 2-3 years of PhD, I sort of knew what was happening. Why sunglasses? Because it's so bright. What are you working on now? I have a startup in NLP for legal document understanding. Well, you're not supposed to say understanding, it's legal document processing, right? What are you working? Oh, sorry, that was it. Can you fix my bug? Yes, of course. You missed you added a comma. Oh no, on it, like this is commas at the end of things in Python will ruin your code if you forget about them, because it makes whatever you have into a tuple, and that's quite messy to find later. Who do you think is better, Messi or Ronaldo? I have not cared which Ronaldo even. I don't know. I watched soccer when Ronaldo was still playing, but I have no clue. Most problems in deep learning. Oh, we already had that. What are your opinions on VTubers? I have never watched a VTuber other than looking up what is a VTuber. If you know, I have no basis to complain, since I'm wearing gimmicks when making videos, so you know, they are, yeah, they're fine, I guess, whatever they want to do. Any tips could help in reading and understanding research papers? Not really. I think it comes with practice and understanding that most people in their papers, they sort of want to sound more, they want to sound better or more, they want to sound more relevant than they are. So they'll frame their work in very formal, you know, prosaic ways, and you just have to keep in mind that their ultimate ideas are going to be, there's like very few ideas per paper. You try to read those out, try to see a little bit what's the real meat behind a paper, and yeah, the rest comes with practice. Are ANNs like real NN? So are artificial neural networks like real neural networks? Well, in some ways they are, in other ways they're not. We've certainly come a long way from the real neural network. though I think even if, the individual neurons aren't like real neurons and backprop doesn't exist in the brain and so on, the things that we learn about distributed representations of data and things like that can definitely carry over from either field. So even though there might be sort of the lowest layer has diverged, there are aspects of the emerging phenomenon that might be quite the same. Advice for undergraduate deep learning researchers. If you're a researcher and you're an undergrad, you're doing fine. Like when I was an undergrad, I had trouble avoiding walls. If you're already a researcher, good job. That you don't need my advice. Favorite non-ML book? Well, I don't know. That's tough, honestly. I'm not much of a book person. So I don't even have a favorite ML book. I know some, but I've never read, an actual book. So sorry, no good answer on that. Oh no, I lost all of you. I'm sorry. I will have to skip some of the question. If I've skipped yours, please ask again. The chat has just scrolled down, so I'll do these ones, and then I'll go up if there are not more ones. I'm sorry. Is the AI field saturated? I don't know. Like, sure, there is like super duper increase in research papers, and that seems a bit saturated. And also, there is sort of a lack of big new inventions and all of that. But on the other hand, there are lots of products yet to be built on these technologies. So I don't think necessarily the field itself is saturated. Maybe the core research path we're on right now is due for a bit of a disruption, a bit of a new paradigm, a new idea or so. But, favorite movie? What do I know? Lord of the Rings or something. I like Lord of the Rings. Good movie. Also Fight Club. PyTorch versus TensorFlow, what's your perspective? Just use whatever. Like, whatever makes you happy. Bickering about libraries and programming languages and so on is too often not worth it. Use whatever solves your problem the easiest or fits your situation. What do you think about prompt engineering? Probably going to become important in the near future. I think we still don't understand. I think there are still a lot of tricks in prompt engineering that we haven't figured out quite yet, just because it's so young, right? Why do you think we focus on big data and scalability instead of training efficiency? Is it just Google? I guess it is probably just Google. It's easier, right? Yeah, it's way easier to just add machines because they have money. They have lots of money, and as far as we can tell, scaling up gives you an almost guaranteed improvement in performance. And efficiency is harder because, the people who designed the core libraries like CUDA and BLAS and LAPAC, they already did a lot of efficiency built in. And sure, we can make things a lot more efficient, but I think it's easier to just scale up, especially if you're big companies. What are your advice and tips for applying a PhD in AI at ETH? Do you need to have publication record? What is the acceptance rate? I don't know. From the time I applied, this has changed a lot. Just try to be as attractive as possible to hire. That's all I can say. It's good if you know people, Like, it's good if people in an institution already know you and know that you are capable and competent. That helps. But other than that, just, look at what their criteria are and try to match that. Publications are certainly good nowadays. It's astounding that you don't need them, but a lot of people have them, but it's not necessary. Sorry, the question by Lucas continues. Is it just Google who steers the field to big data as it's their business politics? Yeah, probably. Also, it's a competitive advantage, right? If you're competing with universities, you can pretty easily pull ahead by just playing to your strengths, right? So if you do research where universities or smaller companies simply cannot pay for it, you're essentially, you don't have as much competition. So, but also, good things come from that. I mean, BERT, I guess, was considered large at the time, and now pretty much anyone can train BERT at home or for very cheap on AWS. So, not sure if good or bad, but certainly they play to their strengths, right? Do you know any other free compute programs other than TRC that could be used to train BERT, Roberta, Electra, yada yada yada? I'm not sure. So far, I've had university resources, which was awesome, and now I have company resources, which are awesome. So I'm not in the situation for free compute. Do you have innovative idea for AGI? Okay, as cliche as this sounds, but it's probably worth going through like the 80s and 90s and 2000s literature and try to see what people did then but didn't have the compute necessary to achieve. But it's I know this sounds Schmidhuberish, but it's entirely possible that ideas from then or modifications on them come back and combine with the current things that we know and the current compute to produce really cool things. Not sure if that's going to lead to AGI, but certainly, yeah. What app do you use in your paper review videos? OneNote and OBS to record. Do you think data scientists should learn Docker, cloud? It's overwhelmingly, especially for students. Probably not, right? So should is a big word. I don't think you should. You should probably learn whatever is required for you to do your work. I am generally interested in all kinds of technical things, so I learned Docker, I learned cloud, whatnot. I learned, whatever I could get my hands on just because I found it interesting. And sometimes that helps you, right? Sometimes you can write a better experiment code. You can schedule your experiments more efficiently, yada, 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 because you're more competent in some other thing, but it's certainly not necessary. So if you feel overwhelmed, do not learn technology outside of the things that you have to know. What are your routines for keeping up with the state-of-the-art literature and filtering signal from noise? It's an eternal struggle. I've never claimed to have the best filter or anything. I just look around Twitter, Reddit, Archive, like the new releases there, various newsletters, blogs, and so on, people posting stuff around on Discord. And whatever interests me, I look at it. But there's too much stuff. In your particular niche, you should be able to keep up. Otherwise, your niche is too broad. But that's sort of your focus if you're a researcher. But for the general landscape, you cannot hope for more than just grab bits and pieces from everywhere. So yeah. Would you have done a PhD looking back, considering you're doing a startup right now? Yes, I would have. I enjoyed the PhD. I've never seen the PhD as sort of a thing that I need to progress or anything like this. I don't think a PhD is necessary for a career. I also didn't aspire to become an academic. I did a PhD because honestly I didn't know what else to do. And having done it, I absolutely enjoyed the freedom and the fact that it placed me like in the middle of this whole happening in research in AI. Might be that I have done it been at the right place at the right time, but would totally do it again. Yeah, but not as a career move. There are better ways to do career. AI generated meshes and textures based on descriptions when? Didn't know that was a thing. I mean, cool. How do you see the movement towards decentralization affecting the ML industry? Is there a movement towards I think, if anything, we see a movement towards centralization with the increased requirements in compute. Like it's not only that the compute gets centralized, right? Like, okay, you now can no longer do your thing on your computer. You need to use your cluster. And if you don't have a cluster, you go to Google or AWS. Not only is it centralized in that, but it goes further. It's now you don't even train your own model. You simply subscribe to a language model API or something like this. So I think there is a centralization happening. And honestly, I don't see something like blockchain interfacing too easily with machine learning, because the two things are sort of not only orthogonal, they're kind of in opposite directions. And it's going to be interesting to see interesting combinations of the two. But so far, I see a centralization trend in AI. Is math invented or discovered in your opinion? God, who knows? Is math invented or discovered? I have no clue. I think math, as any other sort of science, is simply so in my opinion, math is an approximation to the world. So it's an approximate way of talking about the world. And I realize mathematical systems are built upon their own axioms and so on. And in theory, you could come up with any mathematical system. But ultimately, we do math because we want to understand and describe the world. And yes, some people are very much off in abstract space and completely unrelated to the world. But I think by we I mean mathematicians, humanity, keeps math reasonably close to reality, such that my opinion is it's an approximate description of reality, in the same way as physics is, and the same way as biology is, and so on. When will you do a full review of OpenAI Codex? I'm playing around with it. I'm trying to see what it can and can't do, and so on. Also, there, I think people haven't quite figured out yet what what things are possible, but neither have I. So yeah. When are you giving Condi again? It's happening every Wednesday and Thursday at 5. Do you think RL is underappreciated? What do I? No, probably not. I think RL is appreciated quite well for essentially being random search. It's retained its. RL is more like this idealistic idea that there's an agent and it does nothing else than learn from observation and reward. So, and I think this captures the mind of many people when they think of AI. So I think it's appreciated quite well. your advice for applying for PhD in ETH. Yeah, just try to match the criteria. It's good if you know someone. That's that. How to get into research as a beginner. I'm self-taught. Don't know what to do to get into research. Just if you're really a beginner, I would try to just focus on a single area. Like just pick an area that particularly interests you, like a sub field of AI, and just try to get into that. You might choose that a bit smartly, such that it's not how do I build GPT-3, but anything where you can do some things yourself, and then try to get a good overview over that subfield. And I think once you have that, you already have a lot of prerequisites to understand the whole field. If you're a master's student now, would you still go for a PhD? Yes, definitely. How much do you bench or squat? I've never done single rep max, so I don't know. Bench, maybe. I'm not good at bench, so maybe 60 kilo. Squat, I don't know, 120. Many areas of ML research are fascinating. So how do you decide which research problem to work on? Yeah. So this is a combination of whatever interests you and whatever you think. So what interests you, what you're good at, and what's possible physically, let's say, given your resources. So it's a bit of a strategic selection, but ultimately you should go with what you're interested in, because if it doesn't work out, at least you've done something that you thought was cool. And if you go for a topic that doesn't interest you, if it doesn't work out, then there's really nothing good about that. Do you think? No, I'm not saying these words. No mood to get kicked off YouTube. You think weather forecasting will be possible in the future? No. You think we could create AGI in this lifetime? It depends on how you define AGI. I have no idea. For most definitions, you'll probably never reach it. You think having a PhD is important for pursuing research in ML? No, you can do ML completely without having a PhD. Your opinions about the computer vision lab? I have vaguely heard. I don't know many people from there. So far, looks neat, looks cool, and they do interesting stuff. Graph neural networks versus convolutional neural networks. Whatever fits your. Probably the CNN is a special case of the GNN, right? So I don't know. If you like special cases, go for a CNN. How can we call minimax algorithm is AI or not? Sure. We call if conditions AI. So should we also be able to call minimax conditions AI? Okay, now I've skipped a bunch of questions again. So the chat refreshes periodically and I'm kicked out. I'm very sorry if I skipped your question. What for is your green background? To project stuff on it. Do I have filters here? Filters. Effect, probably chroma key, no? There we go. Better. Why capsule networks didn't go further? Because it's a good idea, but it doesn't there's a lot of magic, and whenever your model needs magic, there's just a small chance that it's going to work, but probably not. So this one didn't. Plus, it's computationally, at least the way it was formulated at the beginning, it's computationally not really nice to current hardware. How have you learned the math for ML? You pick it up as you go. Like, I don't think it's worth learning all the math there is and then going into ML. Just go into ML, look at what's the math required to understand the things that I need to understand, and then learn that area of math. So math is too vast to try to pre-learn it. Do you ever talk with Lex Fridman? Not yet. Divide looked at something. Sorry, chat. No. Okay, this is too fast for a single human to follow. Sorry. Where were we? Yeah, I'm totally sorry for skipping questions. I'm overwhelmed, if you want. I need some sort of automatic model to answer the questions for me. No. Do you think love will save the world? That's a Lex thing, no? That is a Lex thing. Totally. Can you share your thoughts on how one comes up with research problems or topics, even smartly throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks may fail or bear fruit? Yes, it's a science in itself, I guess. And technically, the senior people in research should be able to help you with that. So this, I think, mostly comes with experience from research, in that you have to develop a taste for what ideas are in the reach of the current state of knowledge, so are not known yet, but within reach, and also likely to be possible. This is way harder to do if you're new to the research field. Even if you're super duper competent, this is a bit of a taste that you acquire over a career in research. So try to maybe ask around people who have been around for longer, or try to study papers of the past and sort of try to estimate what kind of steps they made over previous work, and then you can get an idea of how far you can look ahead over the current edge of knowledge. Should I pursue prompt engineering? Sure, if you like it. It's a cool new topic, right? What's your favorite chai? I with milk? Is that a thing, or do all chai have milk? I'm not exactly sure. Did you ever consider going to a big tech company to do AI research? Google, OpenAI, Facebook. I was part of Google as a research consultant and an intern during the PhD, and it's definitely a cool place to do research. Now I've decided that I'd rather do a startup. It's a different climate. It's a different climate to be in a big corporation or a small one. All of them have their advantages and disadvantages. It's mostly a matter of taste and experiencing both things. I think is nice. So if you've done one, maybe give the other one a shot. Have you come across research regarding dataset size versus dataset quality? I think there is. I'm not sure if someone or if there's a lot of research looking at this specifically, but for sure we see that both are quite important. So you know, like these language models, they oversample corpora that they know are qualitatively, high quality. So you can make up in a certain manner for lack of size with quality, or possibly vice versa. And there is research on these sort of adversarially created data sets where they create the data points in such a way that you only need like one data point per class, right? So they sort of condense the data set into single data points, and then that's your training set, like 10 data points for 10 classes. And then still the classifier generalizes. So that gives a hint that if your data is qualitatively quite high, it can replace size. But of course, that's an artificially contrived example. So I've come across research like this, but I don't think there's a definite answer as to how important each of the factors are. What is the best way to get started with using transformers? Well, I don't know. Go to Hugging Face, do a tutorial. This is all possible in Colabs now, so a browser is probably all that you need. What framework do you suggest for distributed or parallel inferencing for SSD-based object detection models on Nvidia GPU? I have no idea. I've never done object detection in inference mode or anything like I've never done object detection beyond research. So I'm really bad person to take advice from here. In your opinion, is neurosymbolic BS? Probably not, right? Probably there's something to it, because if you introspect your own head, you clearly see that you yourself are sort of manipulating symbols, right? Also the fact of how we program, right? We manipulate variables and so on. We developed programming languages to also conform to our own thinking patterns and so on. So I definitely think that something symbolic is going on in the brain, and I have no idea whether that is an illusion and it just arises from neural networks doing their thing, or whether the brain's architecture has something built in to support that, and we should also augment artificial neural networks by something like this. I don't know, but it's certainly not BS. The question is whether it arises naturally and then appears to the thinker as symbolic, or whether there are fundamental structures that you need in order to enable this symbolism in what is essentially distributed hardware. Letizia is here. Nice crossover. Hi, Letizia. Any advice to non-ML people for doing ML? No, you're not too far behind. Like, ML changes so fast nowadays that if you're a non-ML person, you're not very far behind ML people. That is if you are working with the current deep learning based systems and so on. If it comes to, like, if you're doing classifiers from scikit-learn, things like this, XGBoost and so on, then you probably want to reach out to a person who has been doing this for a long time and get some advice from them. How was your application process for a PhD? I did my master thesis with the professor that ended up hiring me for a PhD. So the lab already knew me and they had openings at that point. So it was relatively smooth, and it was just before the big boom. So I think had I been later, I might not have been necessarily selected, or at least I would have had severe competition, whereas I don't think I had, like, the circumstances were very fortunate for me, I have to say. Do you recommend going from a bachelor's to PhD directly? What do you think about EU academia? I mean, if you're looking for an academic career or so on, sure, it's the American model, right? To do bachelor's and then PhD. I don't know. Sometimes it's not possible. Like here at ETH, it's not necessarily possible. There is a special program, fast track PhD, but in essence, you do need a master's to get into a PhD. Depends on your school. Yeah. What's your favorite optimization technique? Adam. Used to be RMS prop, because at some point I did like 3 consecutive projects where always RMS prop would be a little bit better. So I was like, RMS prop is the best always. But I like just throw something at it and see what happens. You can't really go wrong with applying Atom and doing a little bit of tuning for a learning rate. Yeah, that's already the heuristic. Like, try a bunch of learning rates. I've never used genetic algorithms in any serious way. So, okay, chat refreshed again. Sorry. From a scale of 0 to 10, how much did you suffer during your PhD? Well, there are definitely times when it gets more strict, like conference deadline times and so on. Times when your stuff doesn't work. Though I have generally enjoyed the PhD, so I don't want to complain. Yeah, that's that. Do you think fairness and bias in AI is as important as we think now? Why do we expect AI to be unbiased if every intelligent being is biased? Well, yeah, okay. I guess you can write an entire essay about this. I do think fairness and bias research is definitely warranted and important, because there are many problems with this. I think, since we're not doing AI just out of joy, I guess maybe the researchers are, but ultimately we want to build tools that make our lives better. And you do expect from a tool that it works in a certain way, that it is reliable, that it is, sort of works as advertised, right? And in this case, you should be at least aware if there is some sort of a bias in the tool, right? If there's a product that some company sells, it's good if it was unbiased in all ways, but at least you should be aware if it was, and so on. So, with respect to that, I definitely think this is important. I do think the fairness aspect might be a bit overhyped, in the sense that I see a lot of papers that simply reframe whatever they're doing in the language of fairness or debiasing or something like this, and in hopes of getting their papers published, because it's kind of a hype topic right now. And I also think there are a lot of I don't know, pointless things done there, or things like this. But I definitely don't think it's not important. That's what I would like to say. But sometimes I wish that community was a bit more like a bit more sober, a bit more neutral takes on things, rather than the very opinionated takes that a lot of these papers tend to have. Why are transformers better than fully connected networks? Well, they're not. They're probably better for some things, and then the mixers came back and whatnot. It seems that the actual architecture might be less important than the fact that you have lots of parameters and somehow shuffle the data around. Yeah. Oh, Connor is here. Thank you, Connor. Thanks a lot. Yeah. People who oh, sorry, Connor is Henry AI Labs. If you don't know Henry AI Labs, you should definitely also subscribe there. I think we complement each other quite a bit there, and in fact, there's probably space for a lot more of us YouTubers in the AI space, because there's just so much stuff. Like I think Connor would agree. We can't possibly keep up with everything that's happening. It's crazy. Are transformers computationally more complex than convolutional models? Yes. I mean, you can debate, which one uses more compute and more parameters, but just from a perspective of what you need to do in a convnet, it's simply a linear operation with fixed weights, and in a transformer, you first have to produce the weights to do the forward propagation. You have to produce them in a dynamic way. So that's like one more step that you need to do in each layer. Yeah. Do you think that deep learning architectures for graph processing have a future? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's probably a hardware constraint a little bit right now for graph processing, because it just doesn't lend itself a lot to current matrix multipliers that expect to have sort of very rigid structured tensors. But a lot of problems are graph structured and not easily structured otherwise, like as tables or images or sequences or whatnot. So definitely graph processing it remains very important. Do you have tips to address burnout in ML? No. Chill. I think FOMO is big in ML, because there's so much stuff happening, right? And yeah, just relax. Like if you've ever shut down for a week or something, you realize that you're still alive, and new things will still keep appearing, even though you've missed a bunch of things. So slow down and do your thing. That's probably a good thing. Who disliked the video? Who disliked the video? It's fine. It's cool. Dislikes are good. I like the dislikes. YouTube discusses always to remove the dislike button. I enjoy the dislike button. Even like on my videos, this is the best signal. Sometimes I think, I did a good job with this video, I did a bad job with this video, but you see it, the likes are not as much an indicator as the dislikes. The dislikes are like the best indicator of whether or not I'm doing a good job. And so I appreciate everyone who clicks the dislike button if they are unhappy with the results. Do you think there hasn't been research? Why do you think there hasn't been research into better deep learning initializations that allow faster conversions? There's like massive research into initializations. It's still ongoing, but there is a lot of research into initializations. Like, yeah. Are you into crypto? I like crypto. I like the idea of crypto. Yeah, it's a cool topic. It's I'm not sure, like, yeah, because you instantly want to combine it with AI, but I don't see a straightforward way. And yeah, other than please pay me for my computer or my gradients or something like this. Yeah, who knows? 12 dislikes within seconds. Thank you. Thank you. Do you like rösti? No, okay. I don't like potatoes too much. Yeah. Except if they're like small and in a frying pan. I'm not I'm not a big potato fan. It's a so here's the thing, like these a lot of these traditional foods, people are like, oh, this is a traditional food of this and this area. It's just the famine foods. It's just whatever the people during the famines had left to eat, right? So like, ooh, the potatoes here are really a national dish. Like, no, you had nothing else. Like, there is other food now. I'm not limited to starch ball. Well, in any case, sorry if like, yeah. And of course, I mean, I'll eat rösti. I will enjoy it if it is served to me. I would not necessarily cook it myself. How does your ideal day look like in terms of being productive? I ask myself this every single day, and I constantly fail. So, ideally, I get some work done, I get some sports in, and I do something for the channel every day. That's sort of the ideal day. And I don't always, like, things come up and so on. I don't always get to do it, but I try. What do you find the most awesome in AI? I think it's quite cool that the barrier to entry is low, right? In general, for computer science topics, the barrier to entry is so low. Like, sure, you cannot train GPT-3 at home, but for many things, you need a laptop and that's it, right? You can learn, you can do research, you can participate by simply having a laptop. And that I find something extremely cool, because in many other research fields, this is completely out of question. You cannot go into synthetic biology with a laptop. I mean, you can, but good luck. Yeah. So yeah, what's your favorite ML technique? What do I know? No idea. Probably logistic regression. I mean, you just take whatever solves the problem, and that probably solves the problem most of the time. Can you cook sushi? Yes. How AI hardware should be. Large, lots. Good and cheap food for master's and PhD students here. The university Mensa has the cheapest food. Just saying. Do you work now? Yes, I try. What do you think about Kaggle? I think it's a cool concept. I know that very often Kaggle solutions are quite overfit to the particular problem, but I see that more as a failure of the competition, proposers than the competition solvers. So I think, if anything, Kaggle is cool, and we need to train the competition hosts better. You cannot train GPT-3 at home. How much would you bet on that? Yes, if you don't know yet, look up Lucas's homebrew NLP project. They'll be able to train GPT-3 at home quite soon. So it's on GitHub. It's /Luke homebrew NLP. What is your preferred operating system? Oi. Okay. For phones, Android, because I'm not sure if the iPhones have widgets by now or so on, but Android is just, it's more sympathetic to me. The iOS is just too restrictive. Like, I get it to streamline things, but it's too much. And then for computers, I use Mac OS. And yes, I know that's not really popular, but it just works. Like, okay, I haven't used Linux for a while, but it's a really good UI. It just works, and I have a Unix shell. So yeah, I can do my coding and all in the terminal, and I have a UI that works for everything else. And yeah, I'm happy with that. For servers, I prefer something like Ubuntu, just because I know it. I know where things are there. So yeah. Share your vimrc file. Okay, I will share my vimrc file. I can give an introduction to it in some video. It's true. If your startup fails, would you consider moving to Silicon Valley? No. Why? I've been in California a bunch of times now. Why would anyone live there? Like, I get that in something like the 90s, this had an appeal, but now it's like the state is super duper dry. It's burning all the time. There's like a risk of earthquakes constantly. They have rolling blackouts because there are too many people. Their farmland is degrading heavily, so it's not like they're gonna be this, we're the farm of the nation for very long anymore. They have like giant problems with homelessness, and where they haven't, the cost of living is so high if you live like in San Francisco or in the Bay Area. I don't get why people still go there. Like, if you're there, you're established and so on, sure, but actively going there, like, I think there are just quality of life wise better options. Even if you say you want to go to like the center of what's happening in tech, there are probably better options available. How do you go through CVPR and NeurIPS submissions and identify quickly what papers matters? I don't. Like, conference, okay, well, submissions are a different thing, but certainly accepted papers they're just out of date. Like, they're like half a year old. Like, who cares? Can NLP automate bureaucracy? Yes, it can. I mean, some. Well, I'm building a startup based on that premise. So, are there any significant foundational works in AGI yet? I don't know. It depends on what you consider AGI. Who knows? No idea. Sorry. Like, probably a significant work will already be defining AGI in a correct way. I'm not sure. You can consider everything we're doing now significant or foundational to it. Is a T5 optimization a good thesis topic for a master's degree? Depends. So depends on which lab and what you're trying to do after. If you're aiming for, like, certainly it's a good topic, right? It's a cool topic. You can do something, right? And you can go and you can say, here's a bunch of stuff I found that make a difference, and now I'm X much faster or better or something like this. If you have the compute available, sure. You have to be a bit careful what you want to do after. If you want to go into like a PhD and you want to go to a professor that requires that sort of So some professors, they like their students to be competent in a more theoretical or mathematical way. So you'll have to see that in your thesis somewhere. You demonstrate a little bit that you're not just like a practical person that hacks around. But that's pretty much all I have to say. Please suggest a good research topic. Bandits, like they don't die. Bandit research does not die. I don't get it, but you know. I'm hearing computational intelligence more these days. What's your opinion in it? Sure. You mean instead of AI? Sure. I mean, it's probably a more descriptive, a better description of what's going on, rather than artificial intelligence, computational intelligence, because artificial could also mean that, like Frankenstein's monster is also artificial intelligent. What was the homebrew link again? Like, it is a Chinese repo. Sorry. It's on GitHub. Or you can, on our Discord, we have a channel for homebrew NLP, and the Discord link should be somewhere in the description. Yeah. GPT $80K budget. Lambda Labs 8 GPU system, or spend it on cloud. If you have the opportunity for a local machine and you use it continuously, it's probably better to get a local machine if you can manage it, right? You also need to calculate that you have to actively maintain it. Yeah, but the costs are way cheaper if you have it locally. Sorry. C++ for machine learning, or just learn a lot of Python. Yeah, again, programming languages, I don't care. But right now, it's probably way easier for you if you do learn Python. It's not a hard language. It is a hard language. Don't get me wrong. Really understanding the object model and things like, I don't know, like when late binding pulls and exactly in what order things are resolved and so on. Like, there's a lot to learn in Python, but the level you need for doing machine learning, it's pretty easy to learn. So and it will be useful rather than trying to stick to C++. Not the least because everyone else's code is in Python, and you'll be able to just copy that, of course, retaining the appropriate license notifications. Any tips for someone getting into legal tech, wanting to apply machine learning and AI to legal problems? Should I focus on NLP? Anything less obvious that I should know? Apply to our startup. No, other than that, just domain knowledge is important. Understand what your data, understand what you're doing. So if you're a tech person, try to team up with legal people, because it'll save you a lot of headaches, of course. Yeah. Did you do any work relating to biology in your time at ETH? No, I've taken a bunch of life science courses in my bachelor's at the University of Basel. I also, before that, I did a year of studying human medicine. So I have some background in biology, but I've never done any research in it. But I know it's a cool new upcoming topic. Yeah. Do you have guilty pleasures, or are you just studying or working all day? Yes, I waste a lot of time watching YouTube videos on whatever. Today I wasted like an hour just watching Casey Neistat videos, or I watch videos about urban planning or something like this. Like, I waste time just as anyone else does. So, like, yeah. What do you think about Microsoft Brainwave's crypto mining? Sounds legit. Is this legit? I mean, this might be legit. I don't even know. I don't even know at this point. Do you think we can reach AI by gradient descent, or do we need new learning algorithms? Well, in gradient descent, it certainly might have its part, right? It's a good optimization algorithm for neural networks. So, yeah. Who are your top 3 AI researchers? Like Schmidhuber has this new blog post where he calls Lecomte, Benjo, and Hinton LBH. I just thought that's a cool acronym, like LBH. But I don't know. I don't have favorite researchers. There are many more than 3 that do cool work. Do you play any games? I used to play games. I no longer have time for playing games. So yeah. Could you upload this AMA on your channel? I haven't said anything outrageous so far, so I actually might. It's always a bit with the live things, especially when I show my screen. I never know, like, have I typed something into my browser and then an auto suggest had like some search from I don't know when, where I was wondering, how does this very gory thing work or something? So you never know. Yeah, but given that this is just this, I might. Sorry. Why is genetic algorithms not more popular? Well, I think first of all, it's not suited to the hardware we have. And I don't mean just GPUs. Genetic algorithms need super duper massive parallelism, because usually they happen in populations of living beings with, I don't know, thousands or millions of individuals at the same time, recombining, developing with different pressures from the environment and so on. And that is just not going to happen on a computer that essentially does sequential computations or minimal parallelism, even on a GPU. Do you always wear glasses? Yes, they're stuck. Yeah. Are you still active in ASFAZ? What sports do you do else? Yes, I'm still active. That pretty much covers my sports needs at the moment. Other than that, I just lift sometimes. Lex asking, what is your meaning to life? I have no idea, no clue. What is the story of the big sunglasses? I don't know. I thought I'd wear them, and now people ask that question, and I think it's funny that people ask the question, so I keep wearing them. Why don't you use Nightbot in your chat? I don't know what Nightbot is. I am terrible at tech, I guess. What university did you graduate? I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Basel in Switzerland, and I have a master's and a PhD from ETH in Zurich. What do you think of the learned hyperparameter optimizer paper, and why does it get zero news coverage? I have not heard of it, maybe because it's gotten zero news coverage. But usually, just usually, I don't know the paper, but usually the meta-learning frameworks and so on, they shift the problem, right? They shift the problem from optimizing a problem to optimizing the optimizer, and usually they run into the same problems when optimizing the optimizer. And it happens to work for the papers or the techniques they look at, but then very often the trade-off of using such a system aren't worth it, because they often don't work as well as advertised. Plus, you still have the problem of having to now optimize or hyperparameter search inside of your optimizer. Even if the papers say you don't have to do that, you quite often do. Do you think Sanskrit is good for AI? I'm not sure what you mean, like to research on Sanskrit, or I'm not sure about the question. Have you been in Poland? I have been in Poland. Yes, I have visited Poland before. Cool country. Very, very. Oh, there's sort of a. There's also a bit of a. Like, I experienced the Polish as being very proud of Poland, or being Polish, and in general they think Polish things are cool, and that it gives the people a nice attitude, because they're in Poland, so they're a bit already a bit happy about that, which is cool. What do you do for your day job? I am program mostly for my own startup. What do you think about geometric deep learning? Well, given that haven't we just released like a giant street talk episode about? Is this no? Am I saying too much here? No, we have, right? Yeah, it's certainly cool, like this pushing it's time we push the deep learning to new modalities and so on, be that graphs or be that other manifolds and whatnot. There's an entire problem space out there that is not accessible by the classical methods of just assuming Euclidean geometry, continuous flat spaces, and so on. And therefore, I'm a big fan. How much of group theory should be known for entering geometric deep learning? Again, it's I would recommend you go read the machine learning papers, and then you see what math is required to understand it, and then you go read the math, rather than trying to go learn all about the math before enter a machine learning field. That's probably more efficient. Have you been in Greece? Probably as a kid. Probably. I've been a long-time follower. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for being a follower. Mike, in your opinion, what do you think the next big thing in deep learning will be? If I knew, right? I have no idea. I can only speculate as much as all other people can speculate. Who can tell what the next? If we knew, we'd do it, right? So it's probably going to be something rather unexpected. Meh. I have no idea. Like there are many people who tell you they know, but I don't believe them. Don't want to be a professor, but love researching. Should I go for a PhD? Yes. I mean, whatever is enjoyable to you. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think people optimize too much for a career. People go like, oh, I need to do this master's, and I need to do the PhD, because then I will do this and this. Life changes and plans change and your interests change and so on. So I think your unless you have an extremely clear plan since you're 5 years old, you're probably better off just doing whatever you're interested in. Sure, have a bit of foresight and so on, but if you're thinking, should I do a PhD or not? If you like research, if you like the PhD life, I can tell you it's sometimes stressful. It's rather alone, so it's not like you work in as tight teams as in industry. And if you find a good advisor that you click with, certainly that might be something for you. But also, industry has appeals, and there are positions in industry where you can still do quite a bit into the researchy direction. Do you think consciousness in AI will occur in our lifetime? How would you know, right? Like if you propose we need a better test probably for consciousness. It would be surprising, given that we don't even understand our own consciousness. Like intelligence is probably easier than consciousness, no? Because intelligence, we sort of measure intelligence with, which tasks can you solve? How fast can you solve these tasks or new tasks? How much can you transfer knowledge? How much data do you need for new tasks, and so on? In consciousness, we don't even have a clue how to measure it, right? Yeah. Why is self-driving so much behind in Europe? Is it? I don't know. I don't know whether it is. Probably because Europeans generally are not as risky. There is also probably more regulations, such that the outlook of developing a working self-driving system isn't as bright as in other places. Because say you develop one, you would have to probably develop it to a higher safety standard than in other places. And once you have it at that standard, it would take a lot longer for the society to sort of match up with what you're doing, right? I'm gonna go for 10 more minutes or so, if that's fine. What's next for the channel? What will take you to 1 million? I don't honestly I don't plan on how should I say, stopping or anything. I am doubtful that we'll reach 1 million. I'd be super happy if that happens. I'm also pretty happy if it just stays at the if it stays at the size it is, or if it grows as it has grown now. This is fine. I enjoy this independent of how many people are watching or how big it becomes. How often did you think of quitting your PhD? Quite a number of times. I think that's a common experience, though. And then you think well, what else should I do? You continue. Can you please tell me the roadmap to learn deep learning in 2 weeks? That's a good question. I have no idea. I probably do a bunch of tutorials in computer vision, in NLP, in reinforcement learning. If you're fast and pick up stuff fast, then you'll see sort of the principles. What's your view on the machine learning job market in Zurich out of Google? Is it really mostly DI finance reporting disguised as ML? Probably. I have never had to apply in Zurich, though I am now an employer, so I would be interested in the answer to that question as well. How do you organize your machine learning projects? I don't. I'm a mess. Are you a believer? in what? How much can you bench? I don't know. Probably 60 kilos or so. I'm not too good at benching. Is JAX a good framework to start learning deep learning? Sure. I think JAX is doing fine. Sorry. Is Pix2Pix or Pix2Pix HD still the best approach for these tasks? Are there new approaches? I don't know. I've lost the overview over what's best. Like what is best in papers and leaderboards is often not what's actually best in practice. You just need to try out stuff, see what other people are doing. And that's probably the only way you figure out what's really best, and not necessarily from papers. So like papers can give you ideas and new methods to try out, but it still comes down to you just apply things to your problem and see what is best. Consciousness prior versus general intelligence, which one do you think is more plausible and achievable? Depends. I don't know. It depends again on your specifications of what these things mean. I am like, certainly you need some sort of prior built in, or not you need, but if you do, you probably make your life a lot easier learning stuff. So yeah, I'm not opposed to building in priors, especially also given that the priors you as a human have aren't perfect, right? So that already signals you that you don't necessarily need perfect priors in order to be able to build a system that at least displays human level intelligence. So yeah. Most interesting application of AI for good. I don't. Is that a specific thing, AI for good, or is it just the concept of using AI for good? I'm not sure. Yeah. What would you advise to teenagers really interested in AGI or deep learning research? Well, I don't necessarily think it's relevant that you're a teenager. Anyone interested, probably learn to program, and then just dive into stuff. It's probably most interesting to dive into applications and try to code something yourself, try to understand other people's code. And from there, you can go a little bit into the theory, what's behind it. The most underrated skill in ML. What do I know? I don't know. Experience, probably. Or maybe nowadays, the most underrated skills is knowing how to use random forest and XGBoost and things like this. It's probably still a lot of problems can be solved using those things. Favorite and least favorite depiction of AI and ML in fiction. I don't know. That's up to the fiction. I don't have particular, not too much into fiction. Yeah. What's your startup about? It's legal tech. It's just processing legal documents. Is Transformer in general better than a CNN? No, in general, it's not better. In general, both have their strengths and weaknesses. Can someone buy shares of your company? Not publicly, but if you're not opposed to shady backroom deals, then all up for it. Have you ever fudged numbers for a paper? No, but what you what you do is you just try until you get the number you want, right? You change your method a bit, and so on, which is, I mean, that's research. You ultimately try to get your stuff to work, but there's definitely an element where you put more work into optimizing your method than the baselines. So, and that's just what everyone does. Internships during PhD, good thing. Yeah, definitely cool. Can recommend. Tabs are illegal according to PEP 8. Wow, I didn't know. I don't like tabs. Nah. Just personal opinion. Just you make your editor do spaces instead of, like, I use the tab key, but make your editor convert it to spaces. What are your favorite non-ML books? I don't really have. It changes. Are ML research papers overrated? I mean, some are. A lot are probably underrated. So, how many papers do you read per day? However many come in front of me. Really read one, not super many, but I skim a lot to see if I'm interested. 4 spaces or 2 spaces, I don't know. I think I've set my Python to 4 and my ECMAScript to 2. Are you scared of Google? Sure, in some way I'm scared of Google. I was scared of Google physical security. That definitely, when I was there, they sort of, they laugh at you, like they smile at you. The people actually doing building security, they smile at you, but they always see you as like a bit of a threat. Even if you work there, right? They're like, I don't trust you. But yeah. Are we in a simulation? No, probably not. Like, I know there's a convincing argument, but probably not. What was your dissertation on? Adversarial examples, or in general adversarial learning. Not world earth shattering. Yeah. Thought on Nvidia's monopoly. It's kind of breaking up, no? Which is cool. Like, AMD is getting in there. There are various things like GraphCore and Lambda, and there's TPUs, and it's sort of falling apart a little bit. Though they'll probably still make more money than they know what to do with. But cool new things coming up in the hardware area. How do you do research without burning out? Look after yourself. Just know yourself and how much you can do, and try to not fall into FOMO too much. Why didn't you go for a postdoc? I'm not a successful enough academic to become a professor, so doing a postdoc makes no sense for me. I just I haven't hyper published papers during my PhD. I also don't have any super impactful papers or anything. So becoming a professor is not really in it for me, nor would I have necessarily liked to do that. How do I contact you about Deep Judge? My company's working on something similar, and we have a prototype in beta as well. A lot of users and firms interested. Answer me. You go to our website, deepjudge.ai. It's ugly right now. We're redesigning it. yeah, there's a there's an email, there's a contact button there. Otherwise, I'm findable on Twitter, if you want to step into that cesspool. Could an AI create a game on the fly? Like graphic card creates visuals on the fly. Yes, there's work on procedural generation of like game levels. So that is definitely, that's happening. It's still like whether or not the AI can come up with a game, like game rules or so on, I don't know, but it can certainly invent levels of games. I've seen even projects where you can play these in real time. So yeah. Is AI overfunded? My sampling bias tells me that it seems like there's no other science except AI for funder's eye. And there's a bunch of others. There's like biology and there's a bunch of tech. I mean, blockchain. There's a lot of funding going into AI, but there's also a lot of stuff happening, right? There's a lot of cool products that we haven't built yet, given the technologies that we have and that are possible. So, yeah. What's your favorite differential equation? The damped oscillator, probably. Video idea: neural networks in Conway game of life. Yeah, why not? I thought about a neural network in Windows Task Manager, but I honestly have no idea how to achieve that. In what order would you prefer to work as a research scientist? DeepMind, Nvidia, Facebook, Google, Spotify, OpenAI, Microsoft. Probably depends more on your team within these companies than on the actual company. Yeah, so just select. Probably your most enjoyment will come from selecting the people that you're going to work with, rather than the company itself. Have you tried doing ML with Julia? I have not. I don't know Julia. I know some people like it, but it seems like right now there's no advantage in. It's like a parallel universe. So yeah, no. Are you a movie buff? Best sci-fi movie? No, I'm not much in. I watch movies sometimes. I'm not too much into movies. What's the coolest product in your opinion? The coolest product, I don't know. Fire? The wheel? A steam engine? I don't know. Do you know 19 in French? What, the number? 19. Is that an actual number? I don't know. Are you looking for interns? Sure. I don't know what to do with them, so maybe not. Yeah. No, not actively. Which programming languages are you fluent on? Python. I used to be fluent in Java, C++, bunch of others, C certainly, but over time I've just not used them, and I've just used Python. Oh yeah, of course, ES, so JavaScript. I'm pretty fluent in JavaScript as well. How to prevent hair fall? How to prevent hair fall? Do I look like I have advice on that? Favorite YouTube channels? So in general, YouTube, yeah, PewDiePie, obviously. Yeah, no question. Are you currently unemployed? No, I'm very employed. Yeah. Would you outsource C++ optimization to scale a creation? Sure, if you can't do it. Merch is coming. How many hours do you spend a day during PhD? You mean on doing the PhD? I don't know, however many you take. Do you recommend any advisor for a PhD at ETH? This is really a person. Like, advisor is a personal choice. Like there's no general recommendation for all people. It's just, you just have to decide what's best for you. Are you on a Switzerland right now? Yes. I'm on a Switzerland. Correct. Yeah. What's your opinion on Elon Musk? I like Elon Musk. I know, like, he overpromises stuff and so on, and he gets a lot of hype going and whatnot. But I'd rather have that. Like, yeah, I'd rather have a world with Elon than without. For all of this overpromising and whatnot, he's also doing really cool things. So, yeah. Thoughts on ML and bioinformatics? Probably coming. Like, probably up and coming topic. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna cut this now. As you can see, it's dark. Haha. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. As I said, this wasn't really planned. It was for 100K. I guess maybe we can do AMAs more regularly. But thanks everyone for being here. Thanks everyone for subscribing or watching videos. It's a pleasure to make these, really. And yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that anyone will watch. So it's a huge compliment that you all are here, and I really thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot, and I'll see you, I guess.